is often stranger than fiction, and this story is proof of that. It's a tale so unsettling, so bizarre, that if it were made up, no one would believe it. But this isn't fiction, this happened. And what started as an eerie mystery turned into one of the most terrifying real-life horror stories ever documented. Stay with me as I take you through the chilling true story of Daniel Laplante, a name that would haunt a Massachusetts town forever. It all began in 1986 when teenage sisters Annie and Jessica Andrews lost their mother to cancer. Grieving and longing for connection, they lived alone with their father, Brian, who worked long hours to provide for them. Left alone with their thoughts, the sisters decided to use a Ouija board one night, hoping, just hoping, to make contact with their late mother. They didn't expect much, but what followed would change their lives forever. At first, the scenes seemed innocent. They sat in their basement, asking simple questions, waiting for a sign. Nothing happened, or so they thought. But later that night, they began hearing faint tapping sounds within the walls of their home. At first, it was easy to dismiss. Maybe it was just the house settling. But as the nights went on, the tapping persisted, growing louder, more deliberate. Annie and Jessica, desperate to believe, thought their mother might be trying to communicate with them. They started speaking to the sounds, asking questions. The taps seemed to respond. Were they imagining it? Their father certainly thought so. He dismissed their fears, believing the girls were struggling with grief. But soon, the unexplainable escalated. Objects in their house began moving. Furniture was displaced. Silverware was scattered. Yet, no one else was home. Then came the messages. Words scrawled in red appeared on the walls. The first read, "Come find me, I'm in your closet." Terrified, the girls fled to a neighbor's house, waiting for their father to return. When Brian Andrews arrived, he was furious. He was convinced his daughters were pranking him, desperate for attention. He sent them to grief counseling, believing it would put an end to the hysteria. For a while, the house was silent. No tapping. No moving furniture. No writing on the walls. Until one night, it all started again. This time, another message appeared, "I'm back. Find me if you can." Panic-stricken, the sisters ran from the house once more, seeking safety at their neighbors. When Brian came home and heard their story again, he was livid. Determined to prove there was nothing to fear, he stormed back into the house, alone, to investigate. But what he found would haunt him forever. His home was in complete disarray, furniture overturned, pennies glued to the ceiling, and cryptic messages scrawled in red across the walls. And then, in his daughter's closet, he saw him, a man. A man dressed in his late wife's clothing, a wig on his head, clutching a hatchet. Brian barely had time to react before the figure lunged. He fought desperately, but the intruder managed to escape. When police arrived, they scoured the house but found no sign of him. How had he disappeared so quickly? Where had he gone? The answer was more horrifying than they could have imagined. During a deeper search, officers discovered a hidden crawl space behind the washing machine in the basement. Inside, they found an intricate system of tunnels burrowed between insulation and woodwork, with peepholes drilled into the walls of nearly every room. The man had been living inside their home for months, watching their every move. His name, Daniel Laplante. Laplante, a teenage boy who had briefly dated Annie, had broken into their home and never left. He had listened to their conversations, watched their every move, and tormented them for his own sick amusement. He had heard about the scenes and used it to his advantage, making them believe they had summoned something otherworldly when, in reality, their worst nightmare was lurking inside the very walls of their home. He was arrested and sent to a juvenile detention center, but his story doesn't end there. In 1987, after being released, Daniel Laplante committed an even more horrific crime, one that would leave an entire community in shock. But that's a story for another day. If you found this case as chilling as I did, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more strange, dark, and disturbing true crime stories. And remember, sometimes, the scariest things aren't the ones lurking in the dark. They're the ones hiding in plain sight.